Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Shabbos Daf Yud Beis. We're 8 lines from the top. Says the Gemara, Tanid ve'Rabbi Shmuel, Yotzei Adam b'Tefillin. One may walk out wearing his tefillin into Rishus Harabim be'erev Shabbos im chashecha. Erev Shabbos, very close to the onset of Shabbos. We're not concerned that he'll continue wearing those tefillin in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos itself. Now, what's wrong with wearing tefillin in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos? So Rashi later on Daf Samach Aleph explains we're concerned that perhaps he'll need to relieve himself and he'll remove his tefillin, and then he'll come to carry them for Amos in Rishus Harabim. So there's Issa D'Rabbanan to wear tefillin in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos. But on Erev Shabbos, even very close to Shabbos, there's no concern, and he may do so. Asked the Mefarshim a very obvious kasha. How can we even entertain that there'll be an Isser to wear tefillin in Rishus Harabim, Erev Shabbos, close to Shabbos? This will be on grounds of concern to safeguard against wearing the tefillin on Shabbos itself. Now, wearing tefillin on Shabbos itself is merely Issa D'Rabbanan. It's Gzeira, as we just explained. So how can we even entertain the notion of making an Isser on Erev Shabbos? Wouldn't that fall into the category of Gzeira L'Gzeira, a safeguard for another safeguard? We know we're not meant to do Gzeira L'Gzeira. Some Mefarshim answer as follows, that in the case of wearing tefillin, there's a very real concern that if he's wearing it on Erev Shabbos, he'll continue wearing it on Shabbos itself. Because the tefillin is not like just an item that he can toss out when he realizes that Shabbos is coming. It's a davar kadosh. It's something sanctified, and he will hesitate perhaps to discard the tefillin, to remove the tefillin when he notices that Shabbos is coming. Therefore, in all likelihood, if he's wearing it so close to Shabbos, he'll continue wearing it on Shabbos itself. And in that case, there's an Issa D'Rabbanan, a Gzeira, as we mentioned earlier, because he might remove it to relieve himself, etc. So, the Isser to wear on Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos, so close to Shabbos, is because it is a very real concern that wearing it so close to Shabbos is really tantamount to wearing it on Shabbos itself. So it's really only one Gzeira. Nevertheless, the Gemara says that he may do so, there's no problem. Why? Because he'll certainly pay attention to his tefillin, he'll be aware of them, and he'll make sure to remove them prior to the onset of Shabbos. Explains the Gemara. My time. Why is there no Issa to wear tefillin so close to Shabbos? Kiva de Amar Rabba Barav Huna. Chayev Adam lemashmesh with tefillin. One is meant to tap his tefillin. Kol shah v'shah. He's meant to constantly tap his tefillin to call attention to the tefillin that he's wearing, to focus and concentrate on their presence. How do we know this? Kal v'chaymer mitzitz. This is sourced in a kal v'chaymer from the halacha that we find by tzitz. Certainly, if the tzitz, which only contains one mentioning of Hashem's name, it says Kodesh Lashem. Nevertheless, Amra Torah, v'haya al mitzchay tamid. The tzitz is meant to be positioned on the forehead of Aaron Tamid. As Rashi explains, this seems to be an extra pasuk, because the Torah already tells us that the tzitz is meant to be positioned on the meitzach, on the forehead of Aaron. So why does the Torah repeat itself? The Torah is telling you, not only physically is it meant to be present on his metzach, but rather shalayasiach da'atu mimenu. In addition to the physical presence, he is meant to be mentally engaged with his tefillin. Shalayasiach da'atu mimenu. He's meant to be mentally engaged with his tzitz and to focus and concentrate on its presence. He's not meant to divert his attention from the tzitz. Shalayasiach da'atu mimenu. So that's regarding the tzitz, which only contains one mentioning of Hashem's name. Nevertheless, it has this obligation. Tefillin, certainly tefillin, sheyesh behen askores harbe, certainly tefillin, which contain many mentioning of Hashem's name. Alachas kama, certainly, of course, one is meant to focus and concentrate on their presence and be aware of the fact that he's wearing tefillin. So if tzitz has this obligation, shleisiach da'atu mimenu, the Torah tells us Aaron HaKohen is meant to be constantly aware of the presence of the tzitz. So through a kal v'chomer we learn certainly tefillin, which contain many mentionings of Hashem's name. Of course, one is meant to be fully aware of its presence, and therefore he is chayiv lemashmesh b'tefillin kol shah v'shah. Is meant to tap them constantly and be aware of them. And therefore, Hilchach, says the Gemara, mitkar dachilu. Certainly he'll remember them, he'll be aware of the fact that he's wearing them, and as soon as he sees Shabbos is approaching, he will remove them in time. Continues the Gemara, Tanya Chanani Oime, in a related topic. Tanya Chanani Oime, chayiv adam l'mashish b'bigdai. One is meant to tap his clothing Erev Shabbos and Chashecha, prior to the onset of Shabbos, to ensure that it doesn't contain, there's no items that he's carrying, and he will not come to the Melacha Beitzah. Amar Rav Yosef, indeed, this is so important. Hilchas Rabasi, this is a great, prominent halacha l'Shabbos, to safeguard the sanctity of Shabbos, to prevent one from coming to do Melacha. Hilchas Rabasi l'Shabbos. Continues the Gemara, leifales kelav. So the Mishnah told us one is not meant to clean his garments of lice, and also not meant to read in front of a lamp, so that he doesn't come to adjust the lamp on Shabbos. Now the Gemara is uncertain as to how we're meant to read the Mishnah. Are these two things meant to be read together in one context? In front of a lamp, one is not meant to read or to cleanse his garments from lice, or perhaps these are two separate halachas. Iboilu, says the Gemara. Le'yifales kelev b'yoyim is the first item of le'yifales kelev, don't cleanse your garments of lice. Is that referring to even by day, in the daytime of Shabbos? Shema yaharik, perhaps, if he removes the lice, perhaps he'll come to kill them. Therefore, don't do it. Rabbi Lezer, and this is following the opinion of Rabbi Lezer, who says that killing a louse on Shabbos is a malacha. The Sanya Rabbi Lezer, ha'ira kina b'Shabbos. If one kills a louse, kilu ha'ira gamal, it's as though he killed a very large animal, a camel. Now, as Rashi explains, there's a machlekes tanoim regarding killing a louse on Shabbos. According to Rabbi Lezer, it is prohibited. It is an issa d'oraisa. It is a malacha of an atilas neshama, one of the 39 malachas, because a louse, even though it appears as though it's simply being generated by the person's skin, it doesn't appear to have been produced by a cross-gender reproduction system. It seems like it merely comes about through the basar of the Adam. And we know that certainly nothing just comes from nowhere, doesn't grow out of thin air. It comes through a louse egg that was deposited on one's skin or one's hair. But nevertheless, since it is too small to be discerned by the naked human eye, therefore some shittas will hold that it is not considered as though it was produced by a zachar and a keva, as though it was produced by a cross-gender reproduction system. And therefore, according to those shittas, there is no isser of netilas neshama on a louse. The only isser of netilas neshama applies to creatures that were created through pirya v'ribya, through the zachar and nekeva, male and female reproduction system. But a kina which appears to have surfaced without, to have come about without undergoing this cross-gender reproduction system, doesn't seem to have been produced by a zachar and nekeva. Therefore, it is mutter to kill it on Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer holds no, it makes no difference. It's irrelevant whether it appears or doesn't appear to have come through a zachar and nekeva. Is considered to be a Baal Chai, which entails the malacha of an atilas neshama. So once again, we're following the shita of Rabbi Lezer, that if one kills a louse on Shabbos, it's as though he killed a camel. There's no difference between a large camel and a teeny louse. And therefore, according to Rabbi Lezer, perhaps one may not cleanse his garments of lice, since he may come to killing the louse in the process. So once again, is the halacha of le'yifales kelev, don't remove the louse from your garment. Is this referring to even during Shabbos day, since it may come to the melacha of netilas neshama if indeed he kills the louse? And we'll follow shittas Rabbi Lezer, who says that killing a louse on Shabbos is a malacha of Netilas Neshama. So that's the first halacha in the Mishnah. Lo yifalas kelev even by day. And then comes the Mishnah and tells us another halacha. V'lo yikra lo yiraner. He shouldn't read in front of a lamp because he may come to tip and adjust the lamp on Shabbos. Shamayata, he may come to adjust it. So these two halachas are unrelated. Oidilma, or another interpretation perhaps will be Tarvayu Shamayata. Both halachas are in the context of Shamayata. Don't cleanse your garment of lice and don't read in front of a lamp. So both are referring to in front of a lamp at night, in front of a ner, since it may come to the malacha of mavir, of adjusting the fire, and that is the basis, that is the grounds for both of these halachas. But certainly by day, perhaps you can cleanse your garments of lice without following the sheet of Rebbe Lezer. There's no isser to kill a louse, or even if you follow the sheet of Rebbe Lezer, there's no concern that by cleaning the garments you're going to kill them. So once again we have a shaila, how to read the Mishnah. The Mishnah tells us two halachas. Lo yifalas kelev v'lo yikra l'ner. Are they both referring to nighttime in front of a lamp? And the chashash, the concern is shamayata, you might adjust the lamp. Or perhaps are they two different situations? Lo yikra l'ner is referring to don't read in front of a lamp, you might come to adjust it. The first halacha, lo yifalas kelev, is referring to even by day. Don't involve yourself with cleaning your garments from the lice, because you may come to kill them, and that is a malacha according to Rebbe Lezer. Continues the Gemara, Tashma, let's verify this from a Brisa. The Brisa says, Ein poilin, one may not cleanse the garments from lice, ve'ein korin l'ner, and also not read in front of a lamp. So it appears that the Brisa is lumping them together in one context. It appears they both are based on the same concern. Says the Gemara, no, mi'alima v'masnisin. Why is this better than our Mishnah? Here too we can interpret both halachas in two different circumstances. The second halacha of Ein Korin l'ner is referring to reading in front of a lamp. The first halacha of Ein Poilin is concerning even cleansing the garments by day, because he may come to kill it. So we have no resolution from this brisa either way. Now Taisus asks, what was the Gemara's Havamina? Why did the Gemara suggest that this brisa is more clear than the Mishnah? The same uncertainty we have regarding the Mishnah, we'll have regarding this brisa. Says Taisus, because the Gemara figures the brisa generally elaborates more than the Mishnah. The Mishnah is more bekitzer, it's more in brief. And therefore the brisa should have elaborated more, should have been more clear, if indeed these two items were in two different contexts. Therefore, since the brisa puts them both together, ein poilin ve'ein korin, it appears as though they're both in the same context, they're both based on the same concern. But nevertheless, the Gemara concludes, no, there's no raya. Perhaps they're two different circumstances, two different halachas, unrelated to each other. Continues the Gemara, Tashma, I'll bring you a raya from another brisa. Ein poilin l'ner, ve'ein korin l'ner. One may not cleanse his garments from lice, and also not read. And both are l'ner, ein poilin l'ner, ve'ein korin l'ner. So it's pretty obvious from this brisa that both halachas are in the same circumstance, in front of a lamp, from concern that he will adjust the lamp on Shabbos. And the Brisa concludes, Ve'elu min halachas, these are from those halachas, Sha'amur, that was said, Ba'aliyas, in the upper floor of Chanani ben Chizki ben Goren. Shma mina. So we see from here pretty clearly that Tarvayu Shemayata Shma mina, that both are on account of concern that he will be mata, he will tip and adjust the lamp. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, Afilu lahavchin, even to tell apart, ben bigdoi the bigdei ishtoi, between his clothing and his wife's clothing, that too may not be done in front of a ner, in front of a lamp. Why? Because this requires concentration, and there's a concern that he may come to adjust the lamp. Amar Rava, lo yamaron, this is only a concern only regarding the clothing of those dwellers of Mechayza, of the city where the inhabitants were of the finicky type, who didn't generally engage in physical labor, and therefore in their case, the clothing, even the men's clothing, were cut in a very wide fashion, was styled very wide, and therefore they were very similar to women's clothing that was also styled in that manner. So therefore, to tell apart between men's and women's clothing in Bnei Mechayza was very difficult and required a degree of concentration. Therefore, that may not be done in front of a lamp. So again, Lo Yamaran, this is only concerned Ela de Bnei Mechayza, those dwellers of the city of Mechayza and other cities in which the inhabitants have the same type of custom not to engage in physical labor, and their clothing as such were styled in a very wide manner which resembles women's clothing. So in those cases, one requires concentration to tell them apart, and he can't do so in front of a lamp. Avol de Bnei Chaklisa, but clothing of those village dwellers, of those that are involved in physical labor, those farmers, etc. So in those cases, there's a big difference in style between women's clothing, which were generally more widely cut, and men's clothing that would generally have more of a narrow cut. It's pretty obvious, and therefore there's no need for much concentration, and he may do so in front of a lamp. Finally, says the Gemara, regarding the inhabitants of Mechayza, this is only a concern Ela de Zakenos, when one is choosing between men's clothing and the women's clothing, older women's clothing, because as we said, those two cuts are very similar. Aval de Yaldos, but if he's differentiating between men's clothing and clothing of young women, whose clothing was of a much wider cut, which really did not resemble men's clothing at all, Yadi, certainly in that case, it's easy to tell them apart, and therefore it doesn't require much concentration, and he may do so in front of the lamp. So again, in a place where women's clothing and men's clothing resemble each other very closely, that requires a great deal of concentration, and you can't do so in front of a lamp. But if the differences are pretty pronounced, in that case is no concern. So in summary, La'oyer haner, in front of a lamp, one may not do the following things. Ein poilin, one may not cleanse his garments from lice. He may not read La'oyer haner, and also to be mavchen, to differentiate and tell apart between similar types, similar styles of clothing of similar cuts. That also requires concentration, and he can't do so in front of a lamp. Continues the Gemara. Tanarabban, ein poilin mishas harabim, one may not remove the lice from his clothing in Rishus Harabim, in public, covered on account of respect for the public. It's something disrespectful to do in public. Kayaitzabai, a similar halacha, Amar V'Yehuda, V'Amar Lo Nechemya, ein oisna apik toizen, Rishus Harabim, one may not cause himself to vomit by ingesting some type of liquid. Can't do it in public, covered on account of the public. You must not repulse the public, and you must treat the rabbim with proper respect. Ton Rabban, Hamafales Kelov, if one removes the lice from his clothing on Shabbos, how is he meant to conduct himself? So we have a machlokes. Moilel v'zorik, Tanakama says, he can roll the louse between his fingers to weaken it, so it doesn't have the ability to come back and annoy him again. Moilel v'zorik, he rolls it and throws it away, but don't actually kill it. Rashi explains, according to Tanakama, although Minat Torah, he may kill the louse, Tanakama is following the shita that allows Nitilas Neshama from a louse. However, Midrabanan, one shouldn't do so, therefore he should merely roll it and then toss it away. Don't kill it. He removes the louse and throws it away as is. Don't even roll it. Rashi explains that Abishol is following the shita that holds that killing a louse on Shabbos is a melacha d'oraisa. Therefore, Chachamim will geyser, they decreed, don't even roll it. Perhaps he might come to kill it. What is the final halacha? Moil v'zorik. He rolls it and tosses it away. And this indeed is his honor. Don't go ahead and actually kill it. just toss it away. Even during the weekday, when there's no concern of malacha, just toss it away. This is the most respectful way of dealing with lice. The Farshim explain that the reason why Rav Huna needed to add this, he's meant to preempt any notion that he holds, that Rav Huna holds of the Shita, that prohibits killing a kina minater on Shabbos. No, Rav Huna holds certainly one may kill a louse on Shabbos in accordance with the Shita of Beis Hillel. Nevertheless, Rav Huna says, preferably one shouldn't do so simply out of respect, which is something which applies, which is applicable even during the weekday. It has nothing to do with the malacha of Shabbos. Continues the Gemara, Rabba Mekatelu, he would kill them. Rav Sheshes Mekatelu, he'd also kill them. Rav Shadula Kanadamai, he would throw it into a pail of water. Amalu Rav Nachman, Abanse, Nachman told his daughters, Ketoilin, kill the lice, Vashmi'inali, let me hear Kala the Sanvasi, the voice of my enemies. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Shimmer Lazar Aimer, Ein Hergenes Amachalos B'Shabbos, Divrei Beis Shammai, one may not kill a louse on Shabbos. This is the Shita of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says certainly we're allowed to, and as we explained earlier, because a louse does not have the Isser until it's Neshama, since it doesn't appear to have been produced by the male-female reproduction system, and therefore there's no Isser until it's Neshama on Shabbos regarding a louse. So in summary, what is the halacha of a kina, of a louse on Shabbos? According to Beis Hillel, certainly one may kill a louse on Shabbos. Mutar laharik. The Tanakama of the Brisa told us, even if we're allowed to kill it, nevertheless, when removing a louse, one should be moilil, he should roll it, weaken it, and toss it in that manner, but don't actually kill it. There's an Isser D'Rabbanan to kill the louse on Shabbos according to Tanakama. According to Rabbi Lezer, mentioned earlier in the beginning of the Sugya, there's an Isser B'Natura to kill a louse on Shabbos. He is following the Shita of Beis Shammai. A person who kills a louse on Shabbos, it is tantamount, is equated to killing a gamal, a large animal. He's chayav chatos. Based on that, we have a Shita of Avashol, mentioned in the Brisa, that since it's an Isser to kill the louse outright, therefore when removing the lice from his clothing, he should simply pick it out noitel, but he shouldn't be moilel, he shouldn't roll it, for concern that he may indeed kill it. And in that case, it will be a malacha of an atilas neshama. Continues the Gemara. So we have one machlekes between Shammai and Beis Hillel regarding killing a kina on Shabbos. V'chein, hayir b'shem Elazar Eimer, b'shem Gamliel. We have another machlekes, another few items that are a machlekes between Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai hold a mishatchenes atanoikes la'aris. One may not conclude a match, a shidduch, to engage tinoikes, children. V'layis hatinik l'amdei sefer. One may not hire a teacher for a child to teach him Torah, u'l'amdei umnus, and to teach him a profession. One may not go and console mourners on Shabbos. And similarly, one may not go be mevakar chayla on Shabbos. Why is that? Explains Rashi. One may not make a shidduch on Shabbos. One may not conclude a match for a youngster on Shabbos. Why? Because this is included in the pasuk of Mtzoy Chefzecha. One may not conduct his business on Shabbos, and therefore making a shidduch is considered conducting business, and therefore it's not allowed. The same thing regarding hiring a rebbe or a teacher. Regarding Nicham Avelim, Rashi says, because he's being mitzvah, he's taking pain, he's joining in the tsar of those who are in pain, of the mourners. Similarly, regarding Mivavaka Chayla on Shabbos, it appears that the same concern is there, not to be involved, not to experience pain and tsar on Shabbos. So this is the Shita of Beis Shammai, who prohibit all of these aforementioned activities. Beis Hillel matirin. Beis Hillel say yes, he's allowed to conduct all these activities on Shabbos. Why, says Rashi? Because Beis Hillel hold that yes, your own business, chefzecha, your own things, you may not conduct on Shabbos, but chefze shamayim, heavenly matters, spiritual matters, that is something one may conduct on Shabbos. Therefore, doing a shidduch, or hiring a rebbe, or a teacher for profession, yes, these things one may do even on Shabbos. As the Gemara soon will explain, that when one goes to Menachem, to be Mevakar Cholim, he's meant to do it in a specific manner, not to enhance the pain and the tsar, but rather to minimize it and to put them at ease and to minimize the tsar, as the Gemara soon will explain. But in any case, we have a machlokes b'Sham v'Hillel regarding all these activities. According to Bisham, it's aser. According to Hillel, it is mutter. And incidentally, the Ran explains where is the word mishadch come from. The word shidduch. What is the root of the word shidduch? Says the Ran, the word shidduch, the translation is stillness, quiet, tranquility, and this comes from the Targum on the pasuk Batishkoi Ta'aretz, and the Targum says Ushadochas Ara. The land was quiet, was tranquil. So how does this relate to a shidduch? Says the Ran, we find the concept of quietness and tranquility and peace regarding a shidduch in the pasuk in Rus, when they said that it says that an isha, a woman, will find manoyach, will find menucha, peace and rest and tranquility in the home of her husband. So indeed, the term shidduch, quietness, stillness, menucha, is applied when we speak about a shidduch, concluding a match between an isha and isha, which produces this shidduch, this environment of stillness, of tranquility, of peace and harmony between the husband and the wife. Continues the Gemara, Tana Rabbana, Hanichnas levakas hachayla, one who goes to visit a sick person on Shabbos. Omer, what is he meant to say? Shabbos himilizik. It's Shabbos today. We're not meant to cry out. It is a day of Shabbos himilizik. We're meant to rest from crying out. Urafua kroy v'lava. Indeed, a cure will be very close in coming. If we respect Shabbos and we refrain from being mitzvah Shabbos, from expressing our pain on Shabbos, Shabbos has the ability to generate rachmanis, mercy in heaven, and bring about a salvation. Now the point here being expressed is that Shabbos is the day that we recognize that everything is sourced in Hashem. All of creation is sourced in Hashem. That is the point of Shabbos. We commemorate the Bria Sa'ilam, where Hashem created and recreates the world at any given moment. So the source of life is Hashem. And we know, why is Hashem creating the world at every given moment? For one reason. To do us good, lehetiv and bruav, as the Mefarshim bring out. To do kindness. To express chesed and goodness to us. That is the sole purpose of this world. So on Shabbos, we're meant to crystallize our perspective and clarify to ourselves and to others that the source of the world is strictly, purely goodness for goodness sake, and everything that transpires within this world, all events, even unfortunate things like sicknesses, are rooted in goodness, are sourced, and will end up being only goodness. So therefore, on Shabbos, we're not meant to call out and cry out in pain. We're meant to believe that really it's all good. It's all sourced in goodness. And it is Shabbos v'himilizik. And indeed, as a result, in that merit of having that recognition and clarity, and refraining from calling out in pain on Shabbos, by doing so, we are zeicha that the goodness will be revealed to us, and the refuah will be close in coming. Rabbi Yehuda, what is he meant to say for the Chayla? Hamakim yirachem alecha, Hashem shall have mercy on you, Val Chol Yisrael, on all other ill people in Klal Yisrael. So the Mashar explains that certainly one is not meant to daven on Shabbos for a Chayla. Nevertheless, using these terms are not considered to be tefillah. Hashem shall rachmanis on you. Rabbi Yosef, hamakim yirachem alecha b'seich Chol Yisrael. Hashem shall have rachmanis on you within the rest of the Chaylim of Yisrael. Continues the Brisa, Shavnish Yerushalayim, Shamna, who was a great person in Yerushalayim, he would say as follows: when he entered, he would say Shalom. Hashem's mercy is great. And you should rest, you should conduct your menucha of Shabbos b'shalom. So he started off saying Shalom, and on the way out he said, it's Shabbos, when I meant to call out and cry out. Refuah is close and coming. Hashem's mercy is merubin, is plentiful, and you should go ahead and rest properly on Shabbos. V'shivsu b'shalom, you should conduct yourself properly and observe the Shabbos b'shalom. Says the Gemara, Kaman Ozla. Who does the following statement follow? Which one of these Tanaim that we just mentioned? Kaman Ozla hada orav chanina. Misheyesh lechayu b'sech beis, one who has an ill person in his home. Tzarach she'arvenu b'sech chayli Yisrael. He's meant to include him within all the other chayli Yisrael. Rashi explains, since he includes them together with everybody else, he has a greater power in the tefillah. Tefillah and Shmas b'schusen shel Rabbim, in the schus of the public of the Rabbim. So according to who does this statement said? Which shita does this follow? Says the Gemara, Kaman Rabbi Yossi. This follows the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who told us that one is meant to say to an ill person, Yisrael, within all the other ill people of Klal Yisrael, he's meant to include himself with everybody else, and thereby meriting greater schus to be zeicha to refuah shalema, to have his tefillah accepted as a tefillah b'schus an shorabim. Says the Gemara, V'amar b'chanina, b'koishi, with great difficulty, tiru l'nachem avelim, Chacham allowed one to console a mourner, l'vakachayla b'Shabbos, and to b'vakachayla, since this results in experiencing tsar and pain. So with great difficulty, the Chacham allow one to do so, but one is meant to keep to certain guidelines, as we mentioned earlier. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, ki amazlina masved Rabbi Lezer l'shiyuli v'tficha. When I followed Rabbi Lezer to be mevakachaylim, I noticed that he conducted himself in the following manner. Zimnim, sometimes he would say, Amar, ha'makam yifaktach l'shalom, Hashem should remember you to peace. V'zimnim Amar, sometimes he said, Rachmana yat kirinach l'shalom. Sometimes when the Chayla would not understand Lashon Kodesh, he used a Lashon Arami, a Aramaic language, and he would say, Hashem, Rachmana yat kirinach l'shalom, Hashem should remember you to peace. Says the word, how did he use Lashon Arami? Hechi abad hachi. V'amar vida, lo'ilam al yishal adam tzrach Lashon Arami. One is not meant to request his needs in a Lashon Arami. Why? V'amar b'yechanah kol ashel tzrach Lashon Arami. One who does so, ein malach hasharis niskachalei. The malach hasharis don't tend to his tefillah, to take the tefillah in l'fanim in a paragud up to where it's supposed to be. So therefore one is not meant to use Lashon Arami. Why? She'ei malachi hasharis makirim Lashon Arami. Since the malachim don't recognize, they don't understand, comprehend Lashon Arami. So why did Rabbi Lezer use Lashon Arami in his tefillah? Says the Gemara, Shani Chayla, the Shechina Imay. The Chayla is different because the Shechina is present alongside the ill person. And therefore, one does not require the services of the Malachim in this case. He is davening directly to the Shechina, therefore he can use any language. What do we find? That the Shechina feeds? Going to one to Pshat and Rashi, it means that the Shechina supports, visits the Chayla. So either it means supports or it means visits the Chayla. Shanema Hashem yisadenu al eres dvay. Hashem will be sayyid, will support the Chayla al eres dvay, on the bed of sickness. One who enters to Mevaka Chayla, he should be aware of Hashem's presence, and therefore he should conduct himself accordingly. He shouldn't sit higher than the Chayla on top of a bed, but like a kis on top of a chair, el misatev. He should wrap himself with dignity, with awe, with trepidation, when he's facing the Shechina, in the presence of the Shechina. V'yoshev lefanav, and he sits in front of the Chayla b'pnei. Why? Because the Shechina is present on top of the head of the chayla. Shenema Hashem yisadenu as Dvei Hashem supports the chayla on the bed of sickness. V'amar Rav Amar Avin Minayin Shakadosh Baruch Hu zonos hachayla. How do we know that the Hashem feeds a sick person? Shenema Hashem yisadenu as Dvei Hashem will feed. Yisadenu is lashon of seuda. He feeds the chayla. Perhaps on this account we find sometimes an ill person doesn't have an appetite. Nevertheless, he goes on and he can survive with very little food. Perhaps it's based on this concept that Hashem feeds a sick person. So, in summary, we learned that according to Beis Hillel, one is allowed to be mevakar chayla. Nevertheless, he's meant to comply with certain guidelines, certain types of terminology he's meant to use. Not meant to express tsar, cry out in pain. Not even meant to express tefillah in a outright manner. Rather, he's meant to use words of comforting to put the chayla at ease in a way of enlightening him and exposing him and connecting him to the shvisa of Shabbos, to the concept of Shabbos, and that everything is ultimately for the good, and Hashem certainly will hasten his recovery. One is meant to be aware of the fact that the Shekhinah is present at the bedside of an ill person. Shekhinah supports him, Shekhinah visits him, and finally Shekhinah feeds him. Continues the Gemara. One is not meant to read in front of a lamp, for concern that he might go and tip it and adjust it and be over malacha. Even if the lamp is very high, it's 2 floors high up, I can't even reach it. Nevertheless, there's Exer Rabbanan, and the reason for that is because of loy pelug. The Rabbanan didn't differentiate between different circumstances. They applied a blanket isser to be applied to any circumstance. The Rabbanan didn't want to differentiate between different situations, lest the person come to allow this isser based on his own rationale. Therefore, the Chachamim made a wall-to-wall isser under any circumstance. One may not read in front of a lamp, even if the lamp is very high up. Even if it's high to mardois, to saddles, the distance of 2 saddles up in the air. Even if it's high, the height of 10 houses. Says the Gemara, so one person may not read. We can infer from here, only a single person on his own cannot do so, as the Mishnah uses a lashon yachid, a singular term. One person on his own can't do so. There's a concern that he might go ahead and adjust the lamp. Hatrei, we can apply from here, that if 2 people are reading together, there's no concern. They'll watch each other from doing a malacha. Shaper dami, that is acceptable. But haven't we learned? Not only one, even 2 people may not do so. It's not difficult. If they're reading together, one inyan, one topic, in that case, since they're reading in unison, they'll watch each other and they won't come to do malacha. But if they're reading 2 different topics, so they're not paying attention to what the other one is doing, in that case, even 2 people together cannot read in front of a lamp because they might come to adjust it. When we have a large fire, I feel even if there are 10 people present, it is asr. Why? Because by a large fire, even 10 people are inevitably situated a distance one from the other, and therefore they won't pay attention to one another. Rashi also explains, since the znamei seudim, the tails of the coals of the fire, are poking out and very close to the individuals, in that case, he will come easily to go ahead and adjust it and maneuver the fire, and therefore there's an additional concern, and one should not do any reading in front of the Medura. If this person is a prominent person, he may read in front of a lamp, since it is not his practice, not his custom to adjust the lamp even during the weekdays, and therefore there's no gzeira on Shabbos. Meisvei says, we have a brayso which tells us one may not read in front of the lamp. Shamayata, he might go ahead and adjust it. I'm confident in my ability to read and not adjusting the lamp. I will read and it will not come to adjust the lamp. Pam Achas says, one time, indeed, you know what happened? Kara, he indeed followed through, he read in front of the lamp, Ubikesh Lahatis. And he came to the point that he was about to go ahead and adjust the lamp. Omar, he exclaimed as a result, when he saw that even he was about to do a malacha, he said, Omar kamek doilim diber chacham, how great are the words of Chachamim Shayu Aimim, who said, Lo yikru la'aner, one should not read in front of a lamp. Even I almost came to do a malacha. So we see from here that even a prominent person has this gzera, there's a concern that even he will go ahead and adjust the lamp. Now, what does this mean? Kamek doilim diber chachamim, how great are the words of Chachamim? The Vilna Gaon has a wonderful pshat in this Gemara. What he meant to say was as follows. The Chachamim were very particular in their wording. They didn't go ahead and give us a reason. They simply said in the Mishnah, Lo yikler aner. They didn't say why. The reason why the Chachamim left it blank without giving a reason, because the Chachamim wanted to preempt this type of scenario. They wanted to avoid somebody coming along and saying, well, if this is the reason, this reason doesn't apply to me. I'll be careful. I won't adjust the lamp. Therefore, the Chachamim purposely left it blank, left it up in the air, uninterpreted, without an explanation. Lo yikler aner. They didn't give a reason for it, because they wanted to avoid somebody making exception for himself, just as I did, says Rosh ben Elisha. I knew the reason, and therefore I made an exception for myself. If that's the reason, it won't happen to me. And I proceeded to conduct myself without the gzera. I read in front of a lamp, and indeed what happened? I was about to adjust the lamp. Therefore, how great are the words of Chachamim, who didn't apply a reason in the Mishnah, didn't give us the reason for it, didn't give us the background, in order so that people should not make exceptions for themselves and not come to do a malacha on Shabbos. Who would simply say, Lo yikler aner, don't read in front of a lamp. They didn't add a reason for it, since they wanted to be applied to every individual and every circumstance. Continues the Gemara, continues the Bryce, Rav Nosson Omer, Kara v'hita. Actually, Rav Shmuel ben Yossi did adjust the lamp, and as a result, as a consequence of a kasav al pin kasai, he needed to write on his pad, Ani Yishmael ben Elisha, I Yishmael ben Elisha Karisi, I read in front of the lamp, V'hi teisi ner b'Shabbos. As a result, I indeed adjusted a lamp on Shabbos. I did a malacha. When the Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt, Abi chatas shmeina, I will be obligated to bring a chatas, a plump chatas, as a consequence of having transgressed a malacha issa d'oraisa. So in any case, we see that even an adam chasher, a prominent person, can come to adjust the lamp, and there's an isser even for this person. So how could you say that? How could Rava say that an adam chasher, a prominent person, may read in front of a lamp? He will not come to adjust it. We see in the Brisa very clearly otherwise. Says the Gemara, Rishmael is very different. Amar b'Amar Shani Rishmael ben Elisha. Hayil, although he's a very prominent person, he's an adam chashav, but regarding learning, Hayil u'meisam atzma divrei Torah kehedit. Regarding Torah, he places himself. He regards himself like an hedyot, like a plain ordinary person. Therefore, when it came to learning Torah, he didn't consider himself like an adam chashav. He didn't consider it to be below his dignity. He didn't consider it to be an affront to his chashivas, to go ahead and adjust the lamp so that he can learn Torah better. Therefore, Rosh ben Elisha, when it comes to learning, is like a plain person, is not in the category, doesn't have the status of adam chashav. And certainly there's a concern that he indeed will adjust the lamp. But ordinarily, an adam chashav, a prominent person, in ordinary circumstances, doesn't adjust lamps, and therefore he may read in front of a lamp on Shabbos. He will not come to be mat to the lamp. I'll tell you this, Akasha, how can it be? There was Shmuel ben Elisha, he adjusted the lamp on Shabbos. He did an avera malacha. We know the Gemara tells us that Hashem protects tzaddikim. In HaKadosh Baruch Hu maybe takola. Hashem doesn't bring a pitfall, a michshol, a stumbling block to a tzaddik. So how could it be that Rishmo ben Elisha did the malacha of Mavir on Shabbos and need to bring a chatas? Says Tosfos that Gemara which tells us that tzaddikim and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe takol al yodam, is strictly regarding prohibited food items. A tzaddik will not come to eat an achilas isser, since that's something very meguna, very repulsive. It's something which he ingests within, he absorbs within his system. He digests it, it becomes part of him. That is the explanation that the Mefarshim give on Tosfos. So therefore, it's strictly regarding achilas isser, dvarim asurim. But it doesn't apply to other transgressions, other isurim, for instance, a malacha on Shabbos. Therefore, certainly, the Brisa tells us that indeed, Rishmo ben Elisha did the malacha and he required to bring a chatas when the Beis Mikdash will be rebuilt. Continues the Gemara, Tani Chada, one Brisa tells us, Shamash, a servant, an attendant, Paidik Kaisis Ka'aris La'aner. He may examine the glasses and the plates to see if they're clean. He may do so in front of the lamp. Tani Yidach, there's another Brisa which tells us, Lo Yivdak, he may not do so. How do we resolve this theory? This is more like kasha. Depends what type of servant. Kam Shamash Kavua, if he's a steady servant, an established servant, in this case, he shouldn't do it. He shouldn't examine the dishes because he's afraid. He has fear of his master. He'll fire him. And therefore, it requires concentration, and he shouldn't do it in front of the lamp. Khan, however, the Brisa which says that he may do so, he may examine the dishes in front of the lamp, he's not a shamash, a fixed shamash. He's here temporarily. Therefore, he doesn't have the awe and fear of his master, and he will not concentrate so much, and he can do it in front of the lamp. Another teretz, both are speaking about the fixed shamash, but like kasha, it's not difficult. Depends what type of lamp. If it's a lamp burning on oil, then there's a concern that he might adjust it. A lamp which is burning on the kerosene, which has a very foul smell, in that case, he will not come to handle the lamp, and therefore he may do so. He may check the dishes in front of the lamp. So in summary, we have two terutzim to our stira between the brises. One brisa says a shamash may examine the dishes in front of the lamp. The other brisa says he may not do so. The first test the Gemara said it depends whether he's a shamash kavua, a fixed permanent shamash, then he cannot examine in front of the lamp. If he's a shamash she'enoi kavua, a temporary shamash, then he may do so. And this teretz of the Gemara doesn't relate to the content of the lamp, regardless of whether it's a oil burning lamp or a kerosene burning lamp. Allah is the same. According to the second teretz of the Gemara, the difference is whether it's an oil burning lamp or a kerosene burning lamp. A shamash kavua, even a fixed permanent shamash, may inspect the dishes in front of a kerosene burning lamp. However, in front of a oil burning lamp, he may not do so. So according to the second teretz of the Gemara, there's no mention regarding a shamash she'enoi kavua. So what indeed is the halacha of a shamash she'enoi kavua? So of course, in front of a kerosene burning lamp, he certainly may do so. He's not any worse off than the shamash kavua. What about an oil burning lamp? Says the Gemara, Yiboilu. We have a question. Shamash she'enoi kavua, a temporary shamash, but the mishcha in front of a oil burning lamp. Ma, what is the halacha? Amarav, halacha be'emarikain. Indeed, the halacha is he may do so, but we don't publicize the halacha. Rav Yirmiyah ba'Abba Amar, halacha u'marikain. We also publicize it. Continues more with this story. Rav Yirmiyah ba'Abba, Ikla, he visited Levi Ravasi, the home of Ravasi. Kam Shami, so the servant of Rav Yirmiyah got up. Kabadik, he examined the dishes on the Nahir, the shraga, to the light of a oil burning candle. Armele Dvisu, so the wife of Rav Asi turned to him and said, Umar lo ebadachi. She turned to Rav Asi and said, you Rav Asi, you don't agree with this. You don't hold that this is permitted. Amar la, so Rav Asi responded to his wife, Shafket, leave him. Ki Rabbi Svirli. He is following the opinion of his master. Rav Yirmiyah ba'Abba holds that a shamash she'enoi kavua may inspect items in front of even an oil burning lamp, and in this case he's a shamash she'enoi kavua because in the home of Rav Asi he's not a fixed permanent shamash there. Therefore, he has a din of a shamash she'ena kavua, and he may indeed inspect the items even in front of an oil burning lamp. So in summary, what activities may one not do in front of la'ir haner, in front of a lamp? One may not read in front of a lamp if he's one person on his own, adam echad. What about shnei bnei adam? What about two people? It depends. If they're reading the same subject, the same topic, Indian echad, then they're allowed to. But if they're reading two different subjects, shnei yanim, then they're not paying attention to each other and they're not allowed to. In front of a medura, in front of a large fire, even 10 people, there's an isser because they're standing far apart, because the flames are very close to them, and they may come to adjust the fire on Shabbos. An adam chashiv, a prominent person, there's no concern regarding him, and he may read in front of a lamp. What about a shamash, a servant inspecting the dishes? So if he's a shamash kavua, then he may not do so. If he's a shamash she'ena kavua, then he may do so. This is according to the first teres of the Gemara. According to the second teres of the Gemara, even a shamash kavua may inspect the items if it's a kerosene burning lamp. Finally, the Gemara asks regarding a shamash she'ena kavua, what about a temporary shamash inspecting in front of an oil burning lamp? The Gemara says he may do so. However, there's a machlokes whether or not we publicize this heter in public. Continues the Gemara, be'emes amru achazan. Now the heading here is a bit abbreviated, perhaps in order to fully understand and appreciate what our Gemara is going to be referring to. Perhaps it would be wise to take a quick peek at the full text back in the source Mishnah on Daf Yomi from Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom. Be'emes amru. The clear-cut halacha is that hachazan, this was the individual who would coach, would help the people tomorrow who had the aliyah in the shul. He would help them quietly with the tune and with the nekudes. So the Mishnah tells us that Friday night, hachazan roya, he can take a glance, heichan tinekes curtain, to see where the children are reading in the Chumash. And this way, his memory will be refreshed, and this will enable him to properly coach the people tomorrow. Aval hu lo yikra, but he shouldn't actually read the parsha with him. Says the Gemara, this seems to be contradictory. You say you can take a look, but then you say you can't read. Va'amris reisa raya. In the beginning you told me he can take a look. Ma'irav likra does not mean that he can read. Loi, no, it doesn't mean to read. L'sade rosha parsha. It only means to take a glance at the beginning of the section of the portions, but not actually to read the entire parsha. He can take a glance at the beginning of the portions, but not the entire parsha. V'kula parsha loi, but he can't read the entire parsha. Meisvei, brayso, which seems to tell us otherwise. The children by their rebbe, they would organize their parshas, and they may read in front of the lamp. So you see, they can read the actual parsha. So if they can do it, perhaps he can do so as well. There's no reason to differentiate. Says the Gemara, the Bryce is also speaking about merely the beginnings of the portions, but not the entire parsha. Another teretz. There is different. Shani tenoikus. Children in front of their teacher are different. Hayil. The awe, the fear of their Rebbe is cast upon them, as Rashi says. Even during weekdays, they wouldn't dare extend their hands and handle things without permission, explicit rishus from their Rebbe. So certainly on Shabbos as well, they won't come to just the lamp. There's no concern. Therefore, they may actually read the entire parsha. But regarding an adult, that's different. Regarding an adult, he may not actually read the parsha because he may come to adjust the lamp on Shabbos.